One more topic I want to hit here, Will, and one of the games there was a controversy here last night. A kid that was not a player in the game. I don't even think he had pads on, but not a main player on the team, just one of the bench players. His name was Parker Jones, and he went viral last night because he accidentally ran into the ref, negating a huge play, earlier on in the game. But he went viral online, and people were just very critical of him, and and not making excuses here. That was not a smart play. Like, this is just inexcusable. You can't be anywhere near the field, near the referees, right? But he is being scapegoated for this loss that Georgia had by a lot of people. And ESPN's getting flack too here, Will, because they kept showing him on the sideline, even towards the end of the game, long past this happened. They were showing him. And it'd be one thing if it was a one-score game and he negated a touchdown or something like that. But I don't think it was exactly that. And it's really tough to pin the entire loss on this kid for this play early in the game when the team didn't really bring their best last night.
I completely agree. I do think that in the beginning of the game, Georgia was the better team. That they were moving the ball, and Notre Dame was having some issues. Georgia had some costly turnovers. But again, you can't blame one play on any game, and like you said, unless it's a one-score game, something to that effect. But that wasn't the case here. Here's something for Georgia fans, and no offense, but if you're going to complain about this kid running down the field or not running into the referee and getting a penalty for it, why don't you just step up and stop Riley Leonard from running the ball down his throat? Because that happened several times during the game. He ran for almost 100 yards straight up the middle. They knew it was coming, and they couldn't stop it. So I would say it's more due to that they couldn't stop them. Notre Dame was the better team last night. Let's face it. And the Parker Jones situation reminds you a little bit of the Steve Bartman thing that happened with the Cubs several years back. And poor guy, that ruined his life. I would hate to see the same thing happen to a young man like that who clearly just made a mistake. And again, it didn't cost Georgia the football game, but you will have some fans for a really long time who will remember that and probably he'll probably be hearing it at the very least on social media.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and again, the network's getting criticized for continuing to basically pour gasoline on that fire and just show the clip afterwards. And look, even if he did blow the game, which I like we were saying, either one of us, I don't think that's the case that a fair case to be made. But let's remember that this kid is a human being. He's a young kid. He made a mistake. Let it go. Like what Absolutely. Good does it do you to sit here and stew about it and yell about it and threaten the kid or whatever other grief he's getting? What good does that do you? Ultimately, it just does you absolutely no good. And I think it's kind of a disgrace when people take sports this far. Like I'm a passionate sports fan, just like the next sports fan. I can get into it as well, but you got to know when to draw the line. And unfortunately, so many times people just don't know when to do that.
Yeah. My brother's a pastor in Georgia, pretty close to Athens, and he knows how intense those fans can get with their team. But they're, like we talked about a vocal minority before we got on here today. We were talking about the vocal minority in sports that causes problems. Talk about the woke mob and all of that kind of stuff. It usually is a vocal minority, but it's enough to cause people problems. And we do think that if you're a believer, if you're a decent human being, don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Just don't do that.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. And, being in the viral crosshairs, I'm sure is not fun. I've covered enough of these stories, and you see the intensity that the online mob goes after people with, and it'll pass. It will pass. But like you said, some of these do linger if they don't just move on with their lives, like the Steve Bartman situation. People, harping on that with the Cubs for so long. Even saying like, oh, we forgive Steve after the Cubs finally won a championship. And it's like, well, what do you mean you forgive him? Stop it. Stop it. How about you
need your forgiveness?
He didn't need it.